Hello and welcome all the devilish writers. We are here after a successful round of completing the Midnight Thrillers Volume 1. Welcome Deepthi, welcome Tanmay, welcome Firoz, welcome Satadal, welcome Neha, and welcome Vikash Pal Chaudhary. More are yet to join, and let me congratulate you all and big round of applause for completing Volume 1. So just to bring about my thoughts and experiences with volume 1. Well, it went on well. It went on well in terms that stories did come in at a faster pace than we had wanted them to, and writers were willing to take comments and work upon their stories. Although there were some first time perfect guys like Satadal who brought about a fully well written edited story, so that's an exception. But yeah, but I need to mention especially for two people for two different reasons. Although everyone who wrote this wrote the stories for this anthology had done a good job, but Deepti, in your case, you have not used any names or place or particular incident or particular factors. You have just played upon the mind, and I really loved it that from start to finish you were in total control of that wavering mind and you took it where you wanted to. So I really appreciate that style of writing, and I have put your story somewhere in the middle of the book so that if the reader is in any way losing the grip on the reading, then after reading your story the reader's interest will bounce back.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah, a big round of applause for Deepti for her outstanding stories.
Well, thanks to you and thanks to Satadal sir for giving me right input to enhance my story, which I tried to incorporate it and I got it.
As I always kept on repeating, there is no rejection or failure. Okay. It's just that we want a certain level of perfection to come around. So everybody, you took it positively. BPC, Tanmay, Pratisha, everybody, you came back with a improved and better version of your own story, and that's what writing is all about. Nobody is totally perfect or the best, but if you improve on that, nothing like it. Another special mention goes to Firoz Kujur. Now, why Firoz? Because he's from Ranchi and he has brought out a totally rustic tribal story. The how the tribals, they have their own uh, superstitions, their beliefs, and they are simple, yet their mind is very complicated. So he has brought that out nicely in his story. Okay, we had to spend a lot of effort on editing because it was sort of written in a tribal way, but we had to make it more reader friendly. So, and also your story was a bit long, Firoz, so we had to clip certain portions of description, although I did not want to because those descriptions were appropriate with the story, but then we had to maintain certain word limit to balance out the anthology. So big applause for Firoz Kujur for his effort of.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
So I would like to give a hot seat, to each of you authors who have written in this, and you have to share in brief, like, okay, introduce yourself first, and then why you took on to writing horror stories, and what was the impact on you while you wrote this story? What kind of transformation you went through as a writer, and how do you feel after having written it? And fourthly, but not the least, if a reader has to pick this anthology and read, then why? Right? So BPC, you are traveling and you are far away. I would begin with you and make you pinned so that you can present your views, please. You have to unmute yourself, BPC. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hi, my name is Vol1, and I am a writer, author of three fiction novels. I mean, in a series called Lucy's Trilogy. So it was my first attempt at dig at ghost stories, and what I found, it was a very difficult thing initially. And I am thankful to actually Shatadhan. And every step, actually, he has literally guided me. And when he has, edited this book, it was more of his story. So I would again thank him for the wonderful work he has done. If and further, whether it has done justice to the level of content, other 9 content or not, it is only the time will explain that. And in this story, what I want to emphasize is all about the Northeast, the mystic Northeast, and how the ghost and other things, supernatural, are so much linked to the environment of Shillong and surrounding places. And it has a romantic angle attached to it also, as usual. Most of my books are. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, BPC. And if also please tell us, if a reader has to pick this book, this anthology, why should one do that? I think we lost connection with BPC. Okay.
It is about my contemporary. In the 70s, when I... Can you hear me?
Yeah, we are hearing you now. No, I think
Can you hear me now?
I think your audio is not supportive right now. We'll get back to you later.
Actually, I'd like to complete BPC's statement, if you allow me to.
Yeah, please.
See, people who like horror, most of the readers, they like horror, even if they don't express. And especially in this book, there are everything. There is cult, cult horror, which we call it. We have got contemporary horror. We have got abstract horror, like Ditij's story. We have got something which is, which is a reflection, or which is something that you disillusionment, like that, from Vikramji's story. And you have got a really tribal story with the beliefs and thinking of the tribal people and the superstition, as you said, that comes from Kujurji's story. And BPC's story, like, if you talk to any people about English, they will say there are two types of English only: US English and US English and UK English, American and UK. But in UK English also, there are four types of English. One is classical, one is imperial, one is Victorian, and one is Commonwealth. Now, many people won't tell this. BPC's story, from the very beginning till the end, is in imperial language, imperial English, which Sir Arthur Conan Doyle wrote. People like those kind of people wrote. So in this book, you have got everything, all the masala that you can expect from a horror compilation. And that's why people should pick up this book, because they'll get all the flavors. So this was what I wanted to say to complete.
Well said, well said, well said. So Satadal, now that you are on the hot seat, let's continue with you. You've been writing different kinds of stories as well, which were hard hitting, but necessarily they were not horror and spooky stories, but they were like true to reality kind of stories, if I'm right. And you are a keen observer of emotions, and you have also observed the society very deeply, and that shows in your writing. Now, about horror and thrillers and spooky stories, something uncanny, how much of your observation was replaced with your imagination, and how did you go about writing this, becoming a part of an anthology on horror, and how did it transform you in this process?
Hello, I am Satadal Lairi. I have written, as Vikramji said, a few books, on different genres, mainly fiction. Actually, horror is always my favorite, because it keeps you thrilled end to end. It keeps you engaged end to end from the first, if it is written well, from the first chapter to the last one. And I've read some very good horror and thriller books, and I always like to do that. I wanted to be a part of some anthology, because writing a whole horror story takes a lot out of you. So I was looking forward, and Vikramji very rightly came at the right moment and declared an anthology. So definitely I was very interested, and some good stories came to me, and we shared amongst us, me and Vikramji, and really we liked them, especially Deepti, Pratyusha, BPC, of course, Firoz Kujur, Tatleji. And there was a lot of learning from them. And this thing is again a learning lesson. Every experience is a learning lesson. This was also a learning lesson, that when you write horror, there should not be any truth. Now, you should not get lost within the descriptions, or the reader should not get lost within the lows and highs of the book, so of the story. So the story has to be gripping. The main plot of the story should keep on gripping you, keep on coming back. Welcome, Spandan, looking very smart with the haircut.
Good evening, everyone. My daughter is with me, actually. So I making him mute, because otherwise it will be disturbing in the meeting. Excuse me.
And secondly, I'd like to share one small experience during this journey. It was a night 11:30 in the night, maybe last week probably, or week before last. Vikramji called me, and we were discussing about the blurb of the story. The blurb that is there in the cover. We were discussing it word for word, every word, every comma, every full stop. We talked over the phone, and we finalized the blurb. 12 o'clock one night, Vikramji called me, and we discussed Firoz Kujur's story. Then again at 10:30, 10:45 one night, we discussed about Deepti's story, Pratyusha's story, Tanmayji's story. What happens? It gives you an exhilarated feel. I used to wait for his call. I used to call him. I knew that he usually gets late, because now he has got additional responsibilities at work. So I waited for his call, and it was an experience, different kind of experience. Sonam Malik's story, as usual, is not joined today. Now it was enriching. It was enriching through your experiences, through your way of writing, and whatever we have edited, we have just kept the flavor of your writing there. We have not changed the flavor of your writing. Your flavor of your writing is there. Your idea is that editing has been done, to make it better. That's all. We have not added anything. We have cut down on descriptions, but we have not added anything on our own, because we wanted that individual flavor to stay. And when you read that story, when you read your story from the book, you will find that it is modified, and it is looking a little bit better than the raw thing that had come about. So that was the kind of work that we did in the background, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. Vikramji enjoyed it. I also enjoyed it. The introduction, writing of the introduction, writing of the foreword and all those things, formatting the book. One night, we had to struggle to make the TOC, the table of contents.
That is something very simple, a matter of seconds, but then it got spooked up for some reason.
So all these things are enjoyable things, and having so many writers together and reading through their ideas and being part of it, it gives a different kind of thrill. Apart from it was a midnight thriller for us because we generally discussed at midnight. So people, as I said before, people will buy this book. We have got to pitch for this book saying that it contains different flavors of horror in one compilation, which is very difficult to get. And most of the stories are based out of India. So you hear a lot of things in the Indian context, but there are things that are coming from Papua New Guinea, that are coming from Fiji, which hardly people know about, cultures, Africa. So this is something different. So even if your friends ask you, why should we buy the book? What is so different in it? Tell them, read the book, you will find the difference because it carries different flavor and it is going to stay forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Satyadal. And that was a very good sum up that you did. Let's now have Pratyusha. Pratyusha, you may please unmute. Yeah, let's hear your story, Pratyusha.
Sure. Good evening, everyone.
You could make the video on as well, so we can see.
Isn't the video on?
No, it has just gone off. It was on earlier.
Okay, 1 second. 1 second. Is it on now?
Yeah. Now.
Welcome, Pratyusha. Let's hear from you, Pratyusha, aka Prati Usha, as you call yourself.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Pratyusha here. I'm an HR professional for the last 15 years by profession, and I find peace and enjoyment in writing. I have one book which I have published, which is there in Amazon, which is called Urban Lights. It's a collection of 5 short stories. I have, always liked exploring human mind and the complexities of human relationship. The same thing appears in my story here in Midnight Thrillers as well. It is the complexity of human mind, which ultimately manifests in creating horror to other people and surrounding. So I request all of you should read this book, because all of us here, okay, how I started writing horror. I never thought that I would be writing horror. But when Vikramji and Satyadalji came up with this idea, I didn't give it a second thought at all. And I took up the opportunity because me as an individual, I grew up and enjoyed reading horror, watching horror. So I felt that this is a genre which will never go out of fashion, and people will always love reading and watching horror. So even I wanted to contribute myself to this genre. So I have written. Everybody has, I'm sure that everybody has made a genuine and heartfelt attempt in creating some kind of horror, which once you read the book, you'll also agree. So please grab your copy and feel the horror.
Also, Pratyusha, I have seen on your social media friends who have, commented on your announcement of this anthology. They seemed very enthusiastic about, the release of this book. So, are you part of such a, group of friends who are into reading some real stuff, and would you like to bring them forward to us, what kind of friends?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. As I told that I have been in the field of human resource, so I have quite a bit of good networking where there are avid readers. I have a network of readers as well. Definitely, I would like to, connect them and make them, have a view of this book being released. For sure.
Yeah, you are making the right kind of noises, and all the best to you, and thank you for bringing out that beautiful story.
Thank you, sir.
Let's have the next speaker here, Mr. Tanmay. Tanmay, you may please unmute yourself.
Yeah.
And come on the hot seat.
My name is Tanmay Sharma, as Vikram sir told me, and I belong to Meerut. First of all, Vikram sir और सतादल sir से तभी मुलाकात भी हुई थी. We recently completed a successful event, and it was a kind of a authors meet. So there was a lot of exchange of ideas. Now,
Yeah, that was a wonderful event, Tanmay, and you're a great host.
thank you, sir, and looking forward for the next one very soon with more people to join. In any case, okay. Now I have been a follower, you can say, of mythology. Mythology मुझे हमेशा शुरू से पसंद है. और एक क्वेश्चन जो मैं नॉर्मली ऑथर्स से पूछता हूँ, ऑथर्स इन द सेंस दैट बिफोर ऑर्गेनाइजिंग दिस इवेंट, आई थिंक वी मेट विद अ प्रोजेक्ट कॉल्ड आइकॉनिक ऑथर्स, जिसमें वी आर गोइंग इन फॉर इंटरव्यूज. विक्रम सर का भी रहता है, सतादुल सर का तो हो गया था इंटरव्यू. So whenever I come across an author of mythological genre, मेरा उनसे एक सवाल ये होता है कि why can't we mix mythology with crime, thrill and horror? Mythological horror कम मिलता है देखने को, सुनने को comparatively. Normally या तो हम mythology को retold करते हैं या फिर something thrill and crime kind of a thing mixed with mythology. Horror comparatively कम होता है, although we have a lot of characters of Indian mythology which can fit very good in horror genre. So when the idea came up of this midnight thrillers, so it was like a dream come true. हमने कहा भी चलो try करके देखते हैं. So although I have written horror for the first time, और जैसे मुझसे अभी किसी ने पूछा था कि अच्छा आप हॉरर भी लिखते हैं, मैंने कहा मुझे भी पहली बार पता चला है, तो पहले हम खुद डरें, अब दूसरों को डराएंगे. ठीक है. अब दिस वाज वन थिंग, बट इट वाज रियली फन राइटिंग एंड मिक्सिंग अ बिट ऑफ माइथोलॉजी या एक कंसेप्ट माइथोलॉजी का लेके एंड मिक्सिंग इट विद हॉरर. इट वाज समथिंग दैट आई वांटेड एंड इट केम टू द फोरफ्रंट विद दिस बुक. दिस इज द अदर थिंग. नाउ जैसे अभी सब लोग कह रहे थे कि व्हाई टू रीड दिस बुक एंड what is different about this book, जैसे बाकी भी horror stories हैं मार्केट में या horror novels हैं मार्केट में. So I think we have authors from all walks of all genres of in this book writing. कुछ लोग नॉन फिक्शन लिखते हैं, जैसे विक्रम सर का तो मैंने नॉन फिक्शन ही पढ़ा है अभी तक, और सतादल सर का भी एक डिफरेंट जॉनर है बिल्कुल. और इसी तरीके से वी हैव डिफरेंट पीपल. तो जैसे अभी सतादल सर भी बता रहे थे कि we'll be having a different taste. Like I'm a food innovator, तो हम कहते हैं ना एक प्लेट में बहुत सारी चीजें अगर होती हैं तो we'll have a different taste kind of a thing. So it would be a platter kind of a thing, having different tastes and different dishes. So definitely the people will enjoy it in any case.
Besides this, Tanmay, one thing everybody would observe is that whenever a book comes out from a particular author, it is that author's book. And in an anthology where 10 authors have written 10 stories which are evenly balanced out, it becomes an our book. So throw some light on this, the collective ownership of the thing that is going out in the reader's hand.
So being a reader myself, since I am a voracious reader, right from when I was in 4th, I came up with my first book, which I read. मैंने ये चीज़ नोट की है कि whenever we read a particular author, हमने कोई एक नॉवल उठाया और फिक्शन है, फॉर एग्जांपल इफ यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट फिक्शन राइट नाउ, और हमने उसे पढ़ना शुरू किया, तो बहुत जल्दी हम लोग अपना एक माइंडसेट बना लेते हैं कि भाई ये ऑथर हमें पसंद है और नहीं पसंद है, काइंड ऑफ अ थिंग. सो किताब खत्म होते होते, कई बार तो किताब खत्म नहीं हो पाती है अगर हमें नहीं पसंद आता. कई बार किताब खत्म करने के बाद होता है कि चलो ये तो खत्म कर ली मगर हमें बहुत मजा नहीं आया, तो वी नॉट पिक अप अनदर इशू विद द सेम ऑथर. नाउ इफ वी टॉक अबाउट एंथोलॉजी, एंथोलॉजी में हम ये कह सकते हैं हर किसी के लिए कुछ ना कुछ है. अगर एक या दो स्टोरी किसी को कम भी पसंद आई, बिल्कुल ना पसंद आने वाली तो कोई चीज़ मुझे नहीं लगता इसमें होगी, बिकॉज एवरीवन हैज गिवन देयर बेस्ट. बट सबके लिए कुछ ना कुछ होता है. किसी को ट्राइबल पसंद है तो ट्राइबल है, जैसे अभी बात हुई. किसी को माइथोलॉजिकल हॉरर पसंद है तो वो भी है. किसी को क्राइम से रिलेटेड पसंद है तो वो भी है, किसी को रोमांटिक हॉरर पसंद है तो वो भी है। तो किसी का कोई भी फेवरेट जॉनर हो, if we talk about anthology, we have everything for everyone. I think that answers what you were saying.
Perfectly right. Perfectly right. Thank you, Tanmay. Now we move on to the next.
In
speaker.
fact, Vikram ji,
Yeah.
I'd thank Tanmay ji to bring it up. पहले जो होता था, I'll tell about Tanmay ji का बचपन. I don't know, मेरा बचपन से coincide करता था कि नहीं. In the 80s and all, we always had horror mythology, horror anthology. You see, look at this book. All established authors have written horror stories here. Shakespeare से लेके सारे लोग. These people have written. ये लोग तो एक ही book लिख सकते थे अपने नाम पे. ये book, this book could have belonged to Vikram Khaitan writing horror. But getting everybody together itself is something different, and it gives a different kind of joy to the reader and the writer as well. So ऐसे books बहुत market में थे तभी, अभी भी है, which are composed of different authors, of course established authors, but who knows, through this book maybe we can establish ourselves as horror people.
Absolutely.
I'll just interrupt. Yeah, good evening all. I'll not switch on my video. Actually, I'm very tired. Just returned for day's work today. I'll just take your permission to leave today. I hope that is fine.
Is that Lagnajita speaking?
Yes. I thought.
Yeah. Lagnajita, you
Yes.
have something to share and tell us?
Nothing much except, yes, all are very enthusiastic, asking me from the status and everything that who is writing it. Is Vikram your pen name? Somebody asked me to. I said, no, Vikram is not my pen name. He's a best-selling author and it's an anthology book coming together. So please send us the link. We will wait for that. Wow, it's a different experience. So they are all waiting. I think Midnight Thrillers, the title and the picture itself has moved many people, many onlookers. And with this, sir, I'll leave today, okay?
Before you leave, we are waiting for your revised story for the volume 2. Okay, I hope you are working on it. So
Yeah, sure. I'll start working once my this current CBSE work is over tomorrow. I'll start working on it again.
Thank you.
I'll follow up in YouTube for sure and give my comments also.
Thank you.
Bye. Yeah.
We'll have Deepti now.
Hello
Welcome,
everyone.
Deepti.
Thank you. I'm Deepti, and I'm an author of 4 books, and I have come with this anthology. Being a tarot healer, I'm a tarot healer too. Being a tarot healer, I work with spirit world. So, and I do work with white energy, and this genre was absolutely different, and I took it as a challenge for me because एक भयानक रस ही एक ऐसा रस है जो उसमें मैंने आज तक ट्राई नहीं किया था. Though I have learned all the ras and I teach people also about the rasas, but this ras में हमेशा मैं नीचे रहती थी, and this time I had tried my luck and I put my foot down, I will do this, and I came up with a story. So it was a challenge for me, which I had completed, and I'm sure everybody will love this book because it has so many flavors. जैसे कि मैं बिल्कुल वही बात बोलने वाली थी जो तन्मय जी ने बोली, like it is going to be a perfect platter for you, which have all the taste, all the flavors. But एक ऑथेंटिक चीज होती है, जैसे कि एक साउथ इंडियन प्लेटर होता है, तो जैसे उसके अंदर साउथ इंडियन प्लेटर में सारे साउथ की चीज होती है, ऐसे ही किसी भी स्टेट का जो प्लेटर होता है उसके अंदर सारी चीजें होती है. इसके अंदर भी प्लेटर इज हॉरर, but you have all the other flavors into it.
Wonderfully placed, and yours was a great story, Dipti. It is so abstract and so gripping from start to finish. I really loved reading it, and more than that, I enjoyed editing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for giving us this opportunity.
And we look forward to having more stories from you for the future anthologies.
We'll try.
We can have now Firoz Kujul, the tribal man with an authentic tribal story.
Thank you, everyone, and Good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
I am Firoz Kuju, currently residing in Ranchi. Actually, I am do not belong to Ranchi. My village is very remote area. I think from here it is more than 200 kilometers away in the midst of jungle. From there I come out. Till now I have not read any horror stories, but I have heard and watched movies so much. Heard in the sense I have heard from village elders or friend circles, whatever they have experienced. That only I tried to combine in this story, whatever I could bring and unite in one single story. And this story something very different in the sense that whatever I have watched or whatever I have heard from people in the cities, this story differs more than anything. So I was a little bit skeptical that whether it will be accepted or not. I was very much confused that so hesitantly I sent first to Sadadal sir. Response did not come. I know he is busy. Then again I sent to you. After some times I heard that your story is selected. Wow, it was a great moment for me. Though I was in the office at that time, so I could not properly celebrate those moments. So I was working, and when I just yesterday I just made a wallpaper on my WhatsApp. For the first time, I saw a lot of friends watch that. Usually, I put wall on the this one WhatsApp. Nobody that much comments, but this time, lot of people have commented, and they were waiting. I don't know whether they will buy or not because language is different. Most of them do not read in English, and mostly they read in Hindi. So I don't know they will buy or not, but so much noise is created with the cover, and I think people will love it. All the stories they will love it. Whenever I have heard this kind of story, horror stories, especially from elders, it remains for longer time in the mind, and it sometimes makes us to think something different, and that's the reason I think people will love it. That's thank you.
Thank you, Firoz Pujur. That was a good sum up about your efforts for this.
Firoz ji, when you sent the story, you sent it first to me, and I read it. पहले जब अब जैसे आपने भेजा तो मैंने पढ़ लिया. After reading it, me and Vikram ji, we were discussing where to place this. Of course, we had selected it there itself. We had to do some editing, but where to place this? बीच में रखूं या कहाँ रखूं? That was the confusion. There was no confusion about selecting your story. The confusion was where to place it, because it's such a different kind of story. It brings out such a different kind of feel after going through that, when you portray that scenes of the village in the mind, that we have to place it somewhere where, the people will put full concentration to it. So Vikramji has done it right. What he has done, he has placed it at a place where people will not get distracted. So the positioning of each story is very important, which he has done it with total calibration of the mind, which he can do only. And all the stories are put in the right places.
Thank you, Satadal. And now, with the permission of the audience, I would like to show a presentation about the volume 2. Okay, I'll try to make a curtain raiser on volume 2 so that everybody gets a fair idea of the way forward. Okay, shall I begin with that?
Please, sir.
All right. So here it is. I'm sharing a PPT.
Vikramji, before that, now why don't we welcome Meenakshi Madam? She is joining us for the first time.
All right,
And have her introduction, please.
let's do that.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, this is Meenakshi Kaba. I'm from Ludhiana. I'm from Ludhiana. Basically, I'm from Rohtak, but I'm married in Ludhiana. And well, since my childhood, I was really, as Tanmay sir told that he's voracious reader. I was also a voracious reader, and I love to write, read, and I love to study only. And I'm double postgraduate. I'm MCA and MBA. But right now, I'm a homemaker. And I used to write diaries actually, and then I thought that why not I should start writing something. So I started writing, and I wrote 2 3 stories, and I have sent to Tanmay sir, and I would like to thank first to Tanmay sir who gave me this opportunity. And he said, yeah, I should go for horror thriller stories also. He suggested me that I should start this one also if I can. Well, since my childhood, I was so much interested in horror stories. I love horror stories. In fact, my kids also are interested in horror stories as I am. So I thought I should also write on horror stories also. So I started that one, but I didn't complete just because of some family problem, and I got some problem. Otherwise, I would have also sent that my story. But I hope my story will be ended very soon, and I will send to you also. I wish that would be passed, and definitely it would be in your midnight again,
Definitely,
the next
definitely,
volume.
definitely do send in. We are waiting for it. You see, this series became a series. Before that, it was just one book in the anthology. That was how we started it. We thought, okay, we will have one anthology of 10 stories. Let's get stories from people and we'll select the text 10 best stories and put in this. Okay, now we got so many contributions. We are still getting them, that we can't let go of any story. So we said, okay, let's make a series of the anthology. If people are joining into the movement, after seeing volume 1 in the market, I'm sure more writers will join us, and I don't know where to stop, whether I'll have to take a break from my non-fiction spiritual writing and come to the dark world again. Well, we don't know the future, how it goes on, but I'm sure it is going to be very exciting journey with all of you. And Meenakshi, also I would like to put across is that good you joined in today. We are discussing, we are going to discuss about the modalities of volume 2. The main genre will again be horror, but then we are not restricting to one subgenre in this, because if we restrict to one subgenre, we may, succumb to boredom. Let the readers have a variety of reading, and we do look forward to getting a story from you. Thank you so much.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you once again to everyone who always give me. In fact, I must seriously thankful. I'm very thankful to Tanmay sir. He gave me very good opportunity because he met me when actually in 2019 I participated in Mrs. North India, and then I got the persons who were in AICPW, and that time he selected me. In fact, I was the president of Ludhiana also, and he gave me many opportunities, and this is the
Wow, we
opportunity.
are talking to a beauty pageant. Huh? So humble. You did not bring it up first. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you once again, Tanmay sir and everyone.
Tanmayji, one request, you should share
Please,
the group link with Meenakshi ji so that she can join our group.
definitely, definitely.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Stay on
Sure.
in the show right now. We are going to discuss the modalities now. Okay, please stay on.
Thank you so much.
Before we move to that, we have, all right. I think all the authors at present have spoken, so we can go with the presentation. Basically, a lot of points are repeated from the volume 1, but for sake of people who are joining today, I must give a rundown with this. So we had a successful Midnight Thrillers volume 1. The tagline says, feel the ultimate fear of the unknown. Now that is the secret behind our stories, that, feel the secret of the fear of the unknown. then also we call it horror book series volume 1. Next one will be horror book series volume 2. The title will change, of course. This one is Midnight Thrillers. The second one will have some other title. Okay, subtitle is Horror Anthology of 10 Breathtaking Stories. So that's what it is going to be in volume 2 as well. We'll have 10 breathtaking stories again. And of course, it's written by Vikram and friends. So moving on, if you have any questions in between or anything, you can raise your hands. That will be the format. 1 minute. There is some snag in the presentation. Let me get back again. All right, we are back. So I congratulate once again to the authors for volume 1. We got 10 good stories. The book is going to be around 200 pages in the size 5x8. So that looks perfectly good, like a novel. And we will have a discussion in the group about the launching date and the formal book launch event. Right now, the book is with the publisher, and there will be some back and forth between them and me until the time it comes out. Now, why volume 2? As I said, volume 1 turned out very good, and it turned out fast within a month, and new authors are joining with us. So we'll have fresh perspectives, fresh ideas. That's what Anthology is all about. And some authors are writing, as a spillover from volume 1, and they are expected to finish very soon. So it should go out within 2 months from now. That's the target. So we've got to be really fast with the volume 2 again. And what's the process? Of course, there'll be one story per author in one book. Okay, one author can go into volume 2 and 3 also, but in one volume, there'll be one author's one story. The story size word limit, please mark this. The word limit is 3,500 to 4,000. So the word limit is set because we want a balanced book with equal weightage or almost equal weightage to all stories. But it's not that one story should be too big and one too small. Also, at the end of the story, do write in your author bio a brief one within 100 words, because 150 becomes too much. Stick to 100 words. And also generate a QR code. If you have a website, or if you have an Amazon page, or if you have any personal branding platform where you want your readers to go and check you out, please make a QR code of that. If you don't know how to do that, we'll guide you in the group. Okay, author to edit once before sending. Now, this time in volume 1, what I felt is people felt urgency to send the stories across, and they sent their first raw draft to us. So it was hard time editing that. If you could just do the spell checks and the basics. I would request everybody to please mute yourself. We are getting some noises from the background. So the author should edit once before sending the stories. Okay, one will be mine, of course, because it's Vikram and friends. Other 9 best stories will be selected. And last date for story submission, well, last time it was about, 1 month time given. So this time again, I feel that 1 month should be good enough. Okay, moving forward, what I will do for you, I will do the story selection and arrangement of the stories. I'll do the book formatting, cover design. I'll publish the ebook and paperback on Amazon. I'll also publish the Indian paperback. Then I'll make the book Amazon #1 bestseller. That's my guarantee for you. I'll make it #1 bestseller. Now, the book plus the author promotion will be done on my social media. Those who have already connected with me on Facebook and Instagram, you know that I'm already doing that. Now, I'll be also sending out the books for book fairs. I would like to thank again to Satadal, who does a lot of book fair events for us. And this book will be going into the book fairs as well. And what do you get an author? Every story that gets featured in the anthology gets a 500 rupees cash reward, 2 complimentary Indian paperbacks. You also get a certificate from me that you are a part of this anthology. So if you are a budding author, new author, you can flaunt it on your social media that you're a part of this. And of course, from your side, you don't pay anything for the publicity that you are getting as an author of one of the stories in this anthology. Now, if you are aware, all of you, some of you may not be aware that Sip and Talk with Vikram is a channel on YouTube, which I own. And in that, I host interviews for people. So anybody anybody who's writing into this anthology and you are getting 5-star reviews particularly for your story, you will be given a free of cost interview in this channel. So that will boost your author personality a lot more. And those who have participated but not got selected gets one book as a consolation. Well, I don't think that status will ever arise, because we are not rejecting anything. We are, we are improving you and bringing you into the anthology anyway. Who's the owner of the book? Of course, devil is me. So I own the book. Now, I wanted to discuss story ideas once again, because last time when I discussed the story idea, a few ideas were vehemently repeated, like the reflections and the perceptions of the mind. They were vehemently repeated across the stories, but there are a few ideas which are still untapped. So let's go through them quickly once again. Something inanimate comes to life, like a clown, doll, toy, or a statue, something very inanimate that suddenly comes to life. Then a nightmare comes true next day. You had a nightmare and it comes true next day, like premonitions, supernatural warnings, spooky prompts from anything, any source. Someone's own body gradually changing shape, like a werewolf, monster, or anything, somebody transforming after dark, or some way the body is decomposing due to some reason. People around you that are disappearing. You are noticing it and nobody else notices that. Now you want to go solo, investigate, and land yourself into trouble. This is, some movies are there on this theme, of course, but you can have your fresh ideas into a story. And you are lost in a new place. Okay, some people have hinted on this again in the volume 1. So still, it is an open arena. You get possessed, something supernatural enters your body, makes you do things. Yeah, you can get possessed and do a lot of things. Someone around you is a monster. You can see that, you can understand, but nobody else believes you. You can see the monster, but people don't trust you for that. Or you jokingly, you hypnotize someone, but you cannot snap him back out of that hypnotism. Now, in that trance, another dimension begins. Some crystal gazer, or you say tarot healer or somebody, you go there and they point out, oh, you are a devil. You have something evil in you, and then you start thinking about it. And maybe trans world transmissions, something to do with extraterrestrial. So these are some things you can work upon. And Of course, you suspect someone stalks you. Dipti, you have used this theme already, but yeah, this is still a good one. Then you woke up as a different person. Nobody reckons you. Your identity is lost. And of course, you behave like a different person. Then you are reading a horror book and you realize that you are one of the characters in it. And then you start living the story. So there was a movie called Jumanji, in that children are playing a board game and they get sucked into it. Like that, somebody could get sucked into a horror book. Or you went over for a sleepover with friends and weird things start happening. Okay, so you are sucked into it, and the story becomes like, can you escape out of that? Now, WhatsApp has happened. People are meeting and reconnecting with friends across decades. So you met a friend through WhatsApp, but that friend is a bit weird. You discover that he's probably a serial killer or a monster. Now, this way, ideas can be numerous. Why I've run them down is because many people have not touched upon these points so far, and you can do that. Basic ingredients of horror, to say those who are writing horror for the first time: there is a protagonist, need not be the hero, but you could be the victim as well. And it's always better if you write from the perspective of the protagonist, because you connect with the readers faster doing that rather than writing as a third person. The protagonist can be an ordinary person, can be a vulnerable victim. He can create as a worthy antagonist. And also you can use trauma, shame, mortal fear, or anything associated with that person. Now the setup has to be, the story setup, the event setup has to be mysterious. There could be a dreadful past to mention. You can use fog, darkness, you can use unseen right angle bend, or you can use a closed door for mystery, or you can use any outdoor camping situations. All this is just to race up the heart. You see, the purpose of writing horror story is the readers want to get energized. They want their heartbeats to go faster. They want to breathe faster while reading it, so that they get the gush of adrenaline. And the feeling of adrenaline inside gives you a real wake up, and it gives you a push. So that's one reason why people love to read horror, and they call it real stuff. Now, again, there is a monster. Monster can be a pervert, can be a threatening menace, can be a cheating man or something, or can be a monster chasing the guilty. Somebody has an inner guilt and the monster is chasing. That monster can be your own mind. You can have an inanimate object, as I already said. You can have diseased or infestation, or something like beetles or whatever. Then you can have a psychopath, madman. Not many people have written so far about a psychopath. Not many have written about Halloween. These can be good topics to write about. Again, I would like to remind you that horror is different in writing than in movies, because in movies you can see just the gaping anaconda coming out of the screen and scares you. But to write that in as many words in a book is a challenging uphill task in its own. So the metrics of scaring the readers through your words means that you have to choose the right words which stirs up the right emotions. As it is said that one picture is equivalent of 1,000 words, and 4,000 words is your limit. So you know how crisp your writing has to be. Description of action and violence, of course, we can go on describing it endlessly, but let us do that again with restraint, so that we can just bring in the flavor of that violence without making a very huge build-up. In dream sequences, particularly, you have to use the sequence carefully, because you can't make it like, okay, the you built up a horror, but then you say, oh, it was just a dream. So you let down the readers by doing that. It has to sound like something that was real till the end. Do not put in too many twisted subplots. You can have 1 or 2 or 3 subplots to support your main story, but work on the main storyline, because again, it is a short story. And also at this point, I would say, do not begin with too much of a large build-up. You can put in the subplots in between wherever required to justify the main story. And of course, you can use some definite tropes like horror, revulsion, terror, or thriller. Those are the tropes you can use. You can use any combination of those. Always keep the ending in mind before you start writing, because how I do it is I first visualize the entire story in my mind, and only then I start writing it, because I will know beforehand whether the hero dies. We have certain stories in this anthology where the hero dies, and we have certain stories in this anthology where the hero survives. And again, we have certain stories in this anthology where the hero survives, but is sort of midway between death and life. So, okay, now that's what we mean by hero seems to win but fails, or hero wins but actually lost. So we have different flavors in this volume 1, and we hope we will maintain this in volume 2 and 3 as well. Also try to understand what the ghost and monster wants. Sometimes they have, unresolved business to finish. Sometimes they have a revenge motive, or weapons of murder can lead to their, rekindling. Again, they could rarely be friendly. So don't try to bring out a friendly ghost who's just, sharing a laugh with you, because we want to scare people. We don't want to make them laugh. Also, let's not make it too comical, and let's not make it gory like B grade films also. Okay, let us maintain a different uh, type of monster which will actually scare the people out. And you may not have a personal relationship with the protagonist, with that ghost, but then you could be an onlooker, or you could be anyway, you could be feeling and experiencing the ghost yourself. The ghost would always want to seek some answers or justice or revenge, so keep that in mind. And sometimes they are so embittered that they love to torture. They don't want they don't have basically any unresolved business or revenge, but they just love to torture. The psychopathic ghost, psychopathic monster. So you can think about those. Would you like to discuss writing tips? Can I hear some voices so that I know all are not sleeping?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So we'll
Like,
talk about the
yeah.
writing tips as well. I'll be running this presentation quickly because it's a Sunday evening, and whatever is left of this Sunday, you should be able to enjoy. So plan your story in advance, the theme, the protagonist, the setup, the monster, plan them all in advance. Craft your plot well. The beginning, I always like to be dramatic. It's good to have a dramatic beginning so that it grips the attention of the reader, and the reader would like to go on reading your story. You can have some subplots, but always stick to the mainstay and keep the ending in mind. So you craft your plot and then you start writing the story. It's good to decide the title first. Like in many stories, I have also, with your permission, I have changed the titles because I felt let's make the title more impactful than what it is. But if you have the title first, even my title I've changed so many times. But to begin with, have a title in mind so that you can build a story around it. You can hook the reader right away, okay, without making a very huge build up. make it a racy start. Okay, if you start with a bang, then the reader stays with you till the end. Sometimes a story can begin with the ending, you know, yeah, there are some stories in this volume 1 as well, where it begins with the ending and then the story goes about explaining what happened. But the real ending becomes different. Okay. Sometimes there is a perceived ending and a different real ending. You can work upon this concept as well. You know, cliffhangers are those moments of extreme excitement where when the reader thinks that what will happen next kind of a feeling. So use those cliffhangers and make it, the climax of your story. And this will keep your readers hooked on to your story. First person narrative is good. Like when you say that I did this, I went there, that's always good because the reader can identify well. Instead of a third person saying that he went there, okay, you can do that. Many stories are like that in our volume 1 as well. But first person narrative is always very exciting. The objective is to make the reader breathe faster. Okay, the pace technique, the stretched description of the gory details. Remember, don't write in phrases or short sentences, because wherever you put a full stop and when you pause, the grip loosens out. You know, they are like speed breakers. So always have a long description from start to end, so that the pace technique is used in that and you don't create a speed breaker to break the momentum of the reader. And also never use cliches. Cliches are boring. People think that you just copied stuff from somewhere. You can bring in your own fears. Everybody has their own internal fears. The fear is something very primate, and you can use your own fears. You can use your childhood fears, your phobias, your ideas from the real life, your own experiences, and you can, collectively stitch up certain incidents of your life and make a story out of that. You can use the environment around you, the places where the ghost exists as per your perception. Some weapons, which were, say, a dagger was found buried in the soil and you accidentally dug it out, and then something was attached with that dagger and they start, following you. Some tools, some objects, mirrors. Yeah, objects, mirrors have been extensively used in volume 1, so we will cut down on their use. But yes, weapons were not used, tools were not used. We can use that. Okay, we can use foreshadowing, like create the tension and fear out of nowhere that what is going to happen next. We can use this technique. Tap into the reader's imagination. While you are writing, you will you will be directing the mind of the reader towards a particular thought process, and to certain extent you will have a control on the reader's mind, that how the readers are going to imagine right now. So you don't have to over explain things. You can leave some things to their imagination as well. You can have some unanswered part. Don't try to answer every mystery, like how they did in Karamchand. In the end, they'll have a carrot eating session where they answer all the queries. Don't try to do that. Leave it to the reader's imagination, that how they catch it. Use dramatic irony. The dramatic irony is like the others are getting to know, but you are, as a protagonist, you are not knowing what is happening. Okay, like in some movies, you say, look behind you. Now, everybody could see that the monster is approaching from behind, but that protagonist can't see until somebody says, look behind you. Leverage the fear of unknown. The worst of the fear is the fear of unknown. Okay, if there is a Dracula standing in front, we know it's a Dracula and probably we know how to deal with it. But if the fear is of unknown, then it has got so many connotations without being obvious. So we have to also at times suffocate the reader. In the story, you can take the protagonist into tight spaces. We can take them through the caves. We can push them in closets, pipes, chimney, tunnel. So when you have this kind of description, the reader feels suffocated at times, and that feeling makes them connect with you better. You can also use a child in your story to gain sympathy now. Okay, I don't advocate child abuse, but yes, some natural parenting instinct can be aroused by using some articles, something relating to children. We can use animals. There are some animals which are ill-famed, unfortunately, like bats, cats, rats, dogs, wolves, owl, snake. So some animals are, unnecessarily related to horror and fear, maybe because of our inability to deal with them. But then we can use those elements as well. We can use the description of scary sounds. I mean, don't always say that we heard a sound or we heard a scream or a screech. We can use these sounds. One of the stories, Valentina, in this volume 1, she has used the mystery of the sounds very appropriately. We can use shadows, we can use darkness, we can use shadow, fog, mist, curtains, thick vegetation. Again, shadows are fears of the unknown. Always try to spice up your story in the middle. If the plot is going limp, the reader might put the book aside. So once you think that after the first big bang, the thing is done and now you only need to do the explaining. No, it's not like that. You have to build up the spice once again, rekindle the excitement, and then take the reader to the end. Also in your story, you can plant something fake, like a fake suspect, or some revelation, some clue which is leading you to a wrong path, and again mixed with some kind of feeling that only the protagonist is being misled, but the others are seeing it clearly that it was a fake implant. Everyone, I would say you should read at least one horror book or watch a horror movie or a web series so that you are getting the right influences into your creative mindset. You can come up with great stories if you have read or watched great stories. Avoid too many subplots, too many characters. I mean, it's hard to remember the names of too many characters if you keep bringing in more and more characters. So stick to a limited number of characters that one can remember, and avoid short sentences or phrases or cliches because they also break the momentum of the story. Okay, if I have done my presentation, thank you for your patient listening. And if you will have questions, you please raise hands so that we do not interrupt while the other person is speaking. And I will now take us all into the gallery mode. And we have a question from Satadal Lahiri. Satadal, please bring on.
It's not a question actually. It is just to add the avoid that the slide that was played by Vikramji, to avoid unnecessary descriptions. Please avoid, as he rightly said, because it migrates the reader to someplace else. Secondly, is avoid using semicolons and dot dot dot. Some people, what they think it brings about a mystery. He went to the door dot dot dot. What happens? It distracts the readers. And instead of semicolon, use a conjunction. He was gray. He was gray with fear. Semicolon. Trembling. Semicolon. He was gray with fear and trembling, and he was also having shivers down the spine. Something like that. You try to connect it. don't break it up into small fragments and separate them by semicolons. It distracts. In this genre, I'm not talking about other genre. In this genre of fear and horror, this should be avoided. Dot, dot, dot should be avoided because they think that don't make the reader think too much. They will think something unnecessarily. And in the next page, they'll find something else. So those dot, dot, dots, that creates a confusion. So avoid those, and also unnecessary descriptions, like about the place. Some necessary descriptions you have to place, of course, but there are some unnecessary descriptions also that comes about. One of the authors last time around, he sent a story of 13,500 words. So he was describing a column, building a column. That description was about 150 to 175 words. So that should be avoided. And try to, as Bikramji rightly said, try to make it crisp. And I would suggest one book if somebody wants to write about a psychopath. Try to read Hannibal Lecter. Try to read The Silence of the Lambs. Even if you read 1/4 of it, you'll get a feel of a psychopath, how the psychopath thinks, and how terrifying the psychopath can be. He can be more terrifying than a ghost. So if you can lay your hand, a PDF copy is available in the net. And if you require, I can send it to you also. Just if you can read it, you'll get a feel about the psychopath. We require a psychopath in a second word. So just have a thought about it. That's what I wanted to share.
Thanks, Satadal. Something again acting up with my video. I don't know, it happens usually when I talk about horror. And I am missing from the scene, but I am there. You are unable to see me, but I am there. So some ghost has taken over me and making me invisible. So if anybody has anything to say, otherwise we'll have Tanmay making a pitch for the next big thing that is coming up soon in November. Tanmay, may we hear from you, please?
Yes, sir. So similar to the event that we have just completed, it was the 4th International or Global Leadership Summit, the literature edition. Now we are coming up with the 5th literature edition of the Leadership Summit, but this time it would be, I can use the word spooky kind of a thing, because we'll be organizing it in the jungles of Jim Corbett National Park. तो सिनेरियो तो थोड़ा सा होना चाहिए ना स्पूकी, कुछ मजा सा भी आए. And then we will be extending the event for around 2 nights 3 days, because it can be treated as a family outing or a family get together with the fellow authors. And of course, not only authors, it will be having a lot of non-authors but book lovers from different fields. We'll be having people from the fashion industry, from the medical professions, and then a few educationists who have already registered for the November one. And the delegates would be covering the entire country, because we already have people who would be joining us from Sikkim, Assam, Mumbai, of course UP, Banaras. यूपी से और लोग भी होंगे, मगर बनारस मैंने इसलिए वर्ड लिया क्योंकि वहाँ से ऑलरेडी the delegates have been finalized. Then Himachal Pradesh, we have a few people joining, and this time we are trying to get delegates from a few countries. Like we would be having a delegation from Singapore that has been almost confirmed. We usually have it in the previous shows, but in the 4th one, we were lacking the international participation due to the COVID. But in November, of course, they are joining us. Then Bangladesh, वहाँ से regularly आते हैं, so definitely they'll be coming. And of course, Malaysia and London, we are trying to get the regular delegations, जो regular आते रहे हैं हमारे shows में, they would be joining, and all of them, you can say mostly 90% of them or 95% of them are book lovers. So the authors would be having a good time interacting with the fellow authors as well as the book lovers, definitely. Now the scenario would be that we would be having a few training programs. We would be having speakers. And then we would be having a panel discussion, book launches. In सबके अलावा we'll be having a few get-togethers like a bonfire with a dance party, then a jungle safari. Definitely, if we are in Corbett, the jungle safari should be there. So ये सारी चीजें रहेंगी, and of course the global awards, because all our awards are registered with Ministry of MSME and they carry value. So this is the entire program that we have finalized. Although it was finalized in 2020, but due to COVID, now it has been materializing in 2022. And November would be slightly cold, so it would be really fun to have a bonfire and the those kind of things in jungle tracking and all those things. So this is the program, a rough draft you can say, that we are finalizing it. Now, any questions if someone has related to the program, ya kaisa hoga, what is the takeaway for them, kind of a thing, if someone wants to inquire something.
Thank you. So with this, we can sum up. Satadal, anything to say before we part?
I'd just like to speak about an incident that happened in Meerut, where we were there last week probably. So we were, discussing certain things. There was another author who was there in our midst. So see, Vikramji basically writes on spirituality, and he writes pretty well. All his 4 books are Amazon bestsellers, and Seeds of Advice Ke To Kya Kehne. So he is such a person who writes about goodness and happiness and all those things. And somebody commented, and he was wearing a deep colored shirt that day. And somebody commented that, Vikramji, can you realize you are slowly slipping into the dark side? So it brought about a laughter, but then that person has to read Vikramji's story in this Midnight Thrillers to understand that an author need not go into some, something personally. With your experiences, with your way of writing, with your flow, you can create a story. And you need not be black to write black, or you need not be ekdam sadhu to write about spiritualism. So you can, inculcate those things from books, from knowledge from outside, from experiences, and compile them into a story. So that was a funny incident that we had. And next day, Vikramji was in the brightest colored shirt. So, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See you again.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much.